All right, let's get right into it. In this lesson, we're tackling the core principles of risk assessment in ISO 27001. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Risk assessment sounds a bit dry, right? But trust me, this is the absolute cornerstone of any decent information security system. Get this right, and everything else falls into place. We're going to break it all down, step by step, with some real-world examples to make it stick. So let's jump in.
So let me ask you something straight up. In this crazy world of digital threats that seem to pop up every single day, are you really protecting what truly matters to your business? I mean, think about it. If you don't have a smart strategy, you're not just leaving the doors wide open, you're probably wasting a ton of money and energy protecting things that honestly don't even matter that much.
Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll cover why this is so important. Then we'll set the stage, figure out what assets you actually have, understand the threats and vulnerabilities, analyze the risks, and finally, talk about what to do about them and how to keep improving. It's a really logical roadmap to get us from A to Z. All right, Section 1. Why does risk assessment even matter? You know, a lot of folks see this as just another box-ticking exercise for compliance, a chore. But honestly, that's a massive mistake. The real secret here is to flip that thinking on its head. This isn't a chore. It's a huge strategic advantage. So, what's the goal? It's really simple. Allocate your resources for the greatest protective effect. Think of it like this. You want to be a sniper, not someone just blasting away with a shotgun hoping to hit something. You've got a limited budget, a limited number of people, and limited tech. The whole point is to aim those precious resources where they will do the most good. Anything else is just guesswork, and you might be leaving your crown jewels completely unprotected. And listen, the perks of doing this right go way beyond the IT department. When you have a well-documented assessment, you're showing everyone, regulators, clients, your board, that you're taking this seriously. It's due diligence. It lets you translate all that tech speak into something the business understands: money, reputation, and opportunity. This helps leadership make smarter calls, and that, my friends, builds trust and makes the whole company more resilient. Okay, on to Section 2. Before we can even start looking for risks, we have to set the stage. I love this analogy of a strategic map. This step is all about drawing the borders on that map. You've got to define the playing field. What's in scope, what's out of scope. Basically, what are we actually trying to protect here?
Now, let's clear something up that trips up a lot of people. Risk appetite versus risk tolerance. Think of it this way. Risk appetite is your overall philosophy. It's how much risk you're willing to take on in general to achieve your goals. It's like saying, I'm okay with some spicy food. Risk tolerance, on the other hand, is the specific limit. It's that moment we say, okay, that's too spicy, I can't handle anymore. One is a general willingness, the other is a hard limit. Nailing this distinction is absolutely key.
So once you've got your appetite and tolerance sorted, you can build your risk criteria. What is that? It's basically your customized rulebook. It's the scoring system you're going to use to judge every single risk. This is where you decide how you will measure things like likelihood and impact, and you tailor it to fit your specific business goals and, of course, any legal obligations you have, like GDPR or NIS2.
Okay, our map has its borders. Now it's time for the treasure hunt. Section 3 is all about identifying your assets. And let me be clear, this part is not optional. It's just common sense, right? You cannot protect what you don't even know exists. And when we say assets, please don't just think about laptops and servers. That's the easy part. The really valuable stuff, the stuff that keeps you in business, is often intangible. We're talking about your intellectual property, that secret recipe. We're talking about your brand reputation, your strategic plans. And today, that also means things like your cloud services, your APIs, and yeah, even the knowledge and skills of your key people. That's an asset too.
Look, just making a list of assets is only half the battle. For every single one of them, someone has to be responsible. You need to assign an owner. Why? Because without an owner, there's no accountability. It's that simple. And by the way, this is often where you do something like a business impact analysis, or BIA, to really dig in and figure out how much each asset is truly worth to the business. Okay, so we know our treasures. Now let's map out the dragons and the pitfalls. Section 4 is all about understanding threats and vulnerabilities. And it's crucial to get the difference. A threat is the what, the bad thing trying to get in, like a burglar. A vulnerability is the how, the unlocked window that lets the burglar in. You need to understand both. And the modern threat landscape is, well, it's huge. It's so much more than just a shadowy hacker in a hoodie. A threat can be malicious, sure, but it can also be completely accidental. An employee clicks the wrong link, or a server is set up incorrectly. And it can even be environmental.
like a flood or a power outage. You've got to think bigger.
Just take a look at this list. It's just a quick snapshot, really. You've got your usual suspects: malware, ransomware, phishing scams. But then you see things like supply chain attacks and even AI-powered attacks starting to pop up. The point is, this stuff is not static. It's evolving, and it's evolving fast. You blink, and there's something new to worry about.
And that brings us to Section 5, which is really the core of this whole thing, analyzing and prioritizing the risk. This is where the magic happens. We take our assets, our threats, our vulnerabilities, and we put them all together. It's like doing the math to figure out, okay, what's the real chance of this bad thing happening? And if it does, how much is it going to hurt?
So how do you do that math? Well, you've got a few different ways to go. You can keep it simple with a qualitative approach, just using scales like high, medium, and low. That's great for talking to non-tech people. Or you can get a bit more detailed with semi-quantitative, where you start adding some numbers to those scales for better ranking. And if you really need to convince the CFO to open up the checkbook, you go full quantitative, putting actual dollar amounts on the risks.
And the output of all this analysis, it's your risk register. This is your single source of truth for every risk you've identified. But please, hear me on this. It is a living document. It is not a report you write once, put on a shelf, and let it gather dust. It has to breathe and change right along with your business and the threat landscape.
That idea of a living process is the perfect way to get into our last section. Because, let's be honest, finding all these risks is great, but it's totally pointless if you don't actually do something about them. Now it's time to talk about the action plan and making sure it actually works.
When you find a risk that's just too high, you basically have 4 strategic moves you can make. 1, avoid it. Just stop doing the risky thing. 2, mitigate it. This is the most common one. You put controls in place to make it less likely or less damaging. 3, share or transfer it. Think cyber insurance or outsourcing to a provider. And 4, accept it. You look at it, you understand it, and you make a conscious business decision to live with it because it's within your risk appetite.
This whole treatment plan gets formally documented in something called the Statement of Applicability, or SOA. Now, this is a mandatory document for ISO 27001, and it's super important. Why? Because it's the bridge connecting your risk assessment to what you're actually doing. It lists all the security controls from the standard and makes you say, for each one, yes, we're using this, and here's why. Or, just as critically, no, we're not using this, and here's why not. It's all about justification. And all of this really proves that risk management is not a one-time project. It's a never-ending cycle. You've probably heard of the Plan, Do, Check, Act model. Well, this is it in action. You plan your risk assessment. You do the treatments and controls. You check to see if they're actually working, and then you act to make things better based on what you learned. Then, guess what? The cycle starts all over again. So here's the bottom line, the main takeaway. Your company's risk profile is never, ever static. Things are always changing. New technology, new business goals, and, for sure, new threats. It's a moving target. And that's exactly why the standard says you must review your risk assessment at least once a year or anytime something big changes. It has to be dynamic.
Which really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. Your risks are changing, literally every single day. So the question you need to ask yourself is this: is my assessment process keeping up? Is it agile enough for today's world? Because that, right there, is the real challenge.